Hi, everybody. It's Linda G and Andre.
Hi, everyone.
Astrology alert and his information. Plus, I'll have you mention it before you leave.
I'm back in the
Okay.
forest.
Anne mentioned Saturn's return. Linda mentioned that Saturn impacted her chart when she got cancer. Could you explain what Saturn return is?
Okay, well, Linda's connection was not a Saturn return. It was Saturn on her sun. Saturn return is when Saturn comes back to where it was at birth, which might be where the sun is too, but often isn't. So it's a different cycle. But Saturn is Saturn. So Saturn are periods that tend to be more difficult, and Linda will attest to that. And they're periods when you can make the most progress. She'll also attest to that.
Right.
That's how it works. Saturn is not a lot of fun, but it's the most, let's say, helpful medicine if you're able to work through it. And it reveals where you are, and it basically asks the question, do you want to continue this way, or do you want to make changes, right? And then when you make those changes, your life improves. So in that way, Saturn is a very positive influence. But if I said to you that it feels like fun, I'd be lying, because it doesn't.
It was awful, but it was good.
Right. And especially in retrospect, right? When you look back, in a way, you take the pain out of the equation and you say, I sorted through it. I had patience. I stuck it out. I worked on myself, and then things improved.
Well, that's when my awakening happened.
Right. But for example, in the current environment, the reason this is so hard on Trump is because Saturn is really hammering him, right? So Saturn in that way is the karmic confrontation also,
Okay.
it's that, of course, what he does with it is up to him. And we already know pretty well. So anyway.
And can good things happen with the Saturn when it comes in?
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, that's the whole idea, is to have the attitude that it's here, it's demanding work of me, it's demanding focus of me. So I'll listen to the demand. And then, of course, but to the extent that you don't do that, then it's no fun. And what you see is your life falling apart around you, and things, for example, I often say this to people, this thing with an interest in crime shows, because I do astrology. Every chance I get, I'll get the birth date, and Saturn is always 9 out of 10 times, Saturn is when the cops knock on the door and say, "That's your DNA," because the karma comes in. Person like that, they're probably beyond repair. They're just getting the karma, of their actions up to that point,
right,
which are often horrific. And that's why it happens,
Susan Miller, that astrology alert, not astrology alert, what is she called? Astrology Zone. And she used to say Saturn will leave a gift at the door when it's done with you.
Yeah.
And it did with me. It gave me this gift.
Yeah. Well, maybe I would phrase it as it can leave a gift, because there are cases of people who are so entrenched in their way of doing things that when Saturn pops by in their life, shows them bad things, then they start doing victimhood and, everybody's out to get me. And they refuse to look at the fact that they themselves are creating the mess they're in, right?
Right.
So that would be an entrenched Saturn instead of a more progressive Saturn.
Let's see. There were some things we knew that's more psychic than astrology. You had looked at Bernie Sanders. Someone said that, Ruth said that he was so good at a Fox News debate with Lindsey Graham. But you've looked at Lindsey Graham and Bernie, right?
Yeah, I've looked at both. Bernie, I believe Bernie's a Virgo, if I'm remembering.
Yeah.
The way you know that is that the way you know where a person's profile, fortunes, where they change and for the better, they improve. The Jupiter cycle is the most helpful. And Jupiter will go into Taurus next summer, not this summer, next summer. So that period there is better for Bernie. On the other hand, one of Bernie's potential problems can be I believe, is he 80 years old already, or 70, in that range?
I don't know. Yeah.
I know he's in Joe Biden's range, if not older, and he's quite vital. But the Saturn cycle in 2023 enters Pisces, which is opposite Virgo. And, if he does have health things, they're liable to resurface. And Saturn is harder on you when you're older, because Saturn rules time and age. And so it challenges you more. So you have to be ready for that as well, right?
Okay. Yeah. And how about Lindsey?
Well, Lindsay's is different. Lindsay has this planet super late in Cancer, because he's a Cancer and he's got one of them really late, and the Pluto transit is hammering that really hard. So that's generally not good. And I mean, if you look at what's happening, he's kind of in hiding, I think, unless, do you know something that I don't know? Because I think he knows, this is just not looking good. I mean, the whole pattern, the way Trump is looking, I wish he would listen to Liz Cheney, when she said, there's going to come a point when Trump isn't going to be here, but what's going to be left is your dishonor, and Lindsay is one of the worst.
Exactly.
Like one of them said how, you've been kissing his rear end and what's going to be left is the imprint of your lips. I mean, Lindsey Graham, the man is just, I think,
and he goes on, but poor Biden, they were friends. They're not friends. Biden doesn't trust him anymore.
No, and McCain would have kept him straight back in the day when McCain was in a way, his mentor, but
right.
Since poor
it's
McCain
like I used to say, if Trump came to a full stop, Lindsey's head would go all the way up his rear.
Well, yeah. He strikes me as someone that the way he does politics is he's got to be near where the power is, right? But,
right.
I think you got to have some boundaries. Trump is the limit. I don't think you should get near that. It's just not good. It's
so funny. He used to say, if we vote for him, we get what we deserve. And
you're getting exactly that, because I think Trump is systematically destroying the GOP. This thing that's going on where people panic because he keeps getting his people elected. Yeah, but now they got to go up against Democrats, and there's a better chance the Democrat will win. So he's actually helping the Democrats by putting up crazy people.
Like Herschel Walker,
who
my God, poor guy.
He just doesn't look all that competent, and he's got to go up against a competent person, and that's a problem. But that's Trump. Trump.
So I don't know. I don't know. We talked about this a little bit. About Fox News' first broadcast was October 7th, 1996. So you could say it's a Libra.
Yeah,
was there any astrology forecast for its future?
To me, I think Fox News. You said Libra, right?
Yeah.
I had done that chart a while back. So Libra, right away, the place where this is back to Saturn again, right? When Saturn comes in is in 2025, and there are all these cycles that are coalescing kind of around the next election and just after, where you get big planetary shifts. And generally what tends to happen to these outfits is, as society sort of focuses in a different way, they're forced to change. And my feeling is, at the moment, I don't see them changing that much. They seem to be doing pretty much the same thing. They're trying not to show the hearings, but then they did show them because the ratings went down. And then when they do show them, they say, oh, the whole thing is a nothing burger, even though you're looking at it and going, are you kidding me? These are all his people that are,
Exactly.
So I think if you're expecting Fox to get better anytime soon, don't, because I think.
And it's not even a news organization.
No, it's like a propaganda arm,
So Lynn mentioned, how are you feeling about Liz Cheney? I think you did a thing on her.
Yeah, Liz Cheney's time is known, and she has a really good period now, next month, a month after that, going into the end of summer. That's choice, which, by the way, is a contrast to where it was last year when she first joined this effort. Especially the Republicans were really down on her. There wasn't that, Democrats didn't know where it was going. Now you're seeing a very clear Liz Cheney. And the only thing is, though, the actual election, when she goes for the voting in Wyoming, that's kind of 50-50, because at the time, the astrology is more mixed than in the summer. However, then it changes again into the new year and is quite good, very strong again. So my feeling is that if she doesn't win in Wyoming, I bet she's going to get something else in government, or something else will give her a high profile.
Okay.
So this is not someone at all who is, descending into the pits. It's very, very strong. And I think that's good for the committee, because she is crystal clear, and whatever you think of her policies, and I understand that too, somehow people have trouble keeping two thoughts in their mind at the same time. Like they're complaining about Cheney and Barr. Why don't you think of it as think of it as luck that these people had something in them. So it means the Republic held up, right?
Yeah,
Something
exactly.
happened. Look at it like that instead of thinking, oh no, Barr should be prosecuted. First of all, Barr is very unlikely to be prosecuted because he's a lawyer and he's too smart for that. You know, he's not
Exactly.
going to leave breadcrumbs, and then good luck with
No.
that. So thank your lucky stars that yes, he's corrupt and he's, you know, a religious fanatic, but he did the right thing. And
Well,
Liz
let me
Cheney is
tell
doing
you
the right
something.
thing.
What's really weird, some people have brought it up to me. Back when Barr got put in office, I said, oh my God, he's going to do the right thing. And he didn't. He turned on Mueller, his dear friend. He protected that president. And it's like, boy, did I get that wrong. But at the end of the day, he did the right thing.
Yeah, no, and there were a number. It's coming out that there were multiple people who were total Trump lackeys, like that guy that was yelling at Eastman.
Yeah.
He almost seems like a mafia lawyer.
Oh my God, I'm giving you 2 words, peaceful transition. Now
Right.
say it back to me.
Exactly. But so these people with their Trumpy nature, and yet they weren't going to go along with that. Now you can argue that it's because they were just protecting their rear end. Well, why do you care? What difference does it make?
Right.
In the end, as long as you get the result you want, accept that that's good faith, right? Good.
And it's not a Democratic hoax, because guess who's all the people testifying? Republicans.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
So,
I
yeah.
love it. Now here's, people ask about this, and I know we're getting tired of the same questions, but we've got to just address this again. Just double check on your chart. DeSantis, does it look
DeSantis,
good?
yeah.
He'll lose?
Okay, so you got to realize that the thing about astrology is times of birth are really, really important if you're really fine tuning something. And I'll often do charts, and I will say, I don't have the time, but here's what I see without it. But then you can get errors, right? Like Orban, when I looked at Viktor Orban, the Hungarian guy, I thought there maybe was a chance, but I didn't have a time, and it didn't work out, right? As an example. So DeSantis, without a time, his chart, let's just say this, there is enough in there for him to crash and burn and not even and lose the election. It is possible, but then you get a certain rising, sign, degree, whatever, and it could totally upend that. Like if say Jupiter is crossing through there or something, or Jupiter is up on the midheaven, something to help him out. But that there's enough, yes, there is, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's some sort of scandal that may come out on him. But don't forget what Powers said. Roger, what's his name? Powers? Roger Stone.
You mean Roger Stone?
Roger Stone, sorry. He said, hey, fat boy, we've got something on you.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, because that is where, when you're looking at the astrology movements, you can't always know, especially if you have no time. But even if you do, it can be a thing where something like that pops out and then it unravels the situation. And so, I mean, the thing is, people have to realize Florida is a really, really super tight state. I mean, he barely won last time, barely, by the skin of his teeth. So, it's not necessarily guaranteed at all that it's an easy election. So this is why, and some of the things that he's done have made it more complicated.
He turned Disney against him. He turned gay families against him. He's turned teachers against him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have too many friends. He even worked against the disabled.
Yeah, no, this is probably the most discouraging thing, that because Trump has been able to hypnotize so many GOP voters with a way of thinking that is totally corrupt. Now you get all these Trumpy people doing the same thing. DeSantis is probably the worst, because DeSantis is a pretty good communicator, and he just talks a lot of nonsense, and he's always doing, these really borderline fascist policies, that in the name of freedom, he's gonna.
Yes, the courts just told he can't file charges against parents of trans children. He wanted to turn them in, and the courts just said, you can't do that.
No, yeah. Well, that's the thing that, luckily, we still have a three-branch system.
Linda said, Abbott in Texas has been staying low key since the shooting. Will the chief of police get in trouble? I don't know if you threw in the chief of police, but you looked at Abbott.
Yeah.
They're saying that Beto is not he's a few points behind Abbott. But I see Beto winning. I always have.
Yeah, this is one that I would just go with you on it in the sense that once again, 2 charts, no times, nothing jumps out at me in a big way. Just that, yes, it's true that there's enough in Abbott's to cause him serious problems, because you always look in astrology, the times of the year when planets station, and the one in the fall is a pretty nasty station that can take you down, right? But it may not, because once again, what is the overall chart doing? I mean, Texas is really hostile territory. You have to be realistic, right?
Oh, yeah.
A Beto win would be a huge upset, huge, right? I mean, even though, yeah, I know they
And
put in
Beto's
people-
not that far behind. It's not
No, I
like-
know, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot will depend on what happens in the next while, and it would depend too if Beto had a chart that, you know, you could say, yes, for sure. Look, he's got this. Like for example,
well,
I remember.
also, a big, huge town doesn't have any water. Whenever they have any kind of disaster, like with water or electrical, he doesn't fix it. He's not there.
No, and I mean, the other thing they do over there, led by Cruz and others, is they say that it's the reason they have electrical problems is because of the Green New Deal, which was never passed. I mean, like, just lie through your teeth and count on people that are so partisan they're not even going to check them. Because what's it got to do with the new Green Deal, or the, you know,
Yeah,
never.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you know, this is Black Dragon, how do you know what is karmic and what's not during a Saturn retrograde?
Okay, so first of all, Saturn retrograde, when planets retrograde, the meaning is that you're, in a sense, going back over your karma. So it's an ideal time to do inner work on your karma, but everything is karma. Wherever you are is your karma. Saturn just happens to be the most intense planet in showing you your karma, or one of the ones, let's say, probably the most.
Right.
So then the impulse should be to work on improving it, to become aware of it and to change it, right? So if you approach it that way, any Saturn cycle is useful. If you approach it through victimhood and through blaming others and so forth, then it won't be the same. It'll basically continue along the same line, and then your karma won't change, right?
Okay.
So that's how that works.
This is a weird question. I have no idea what it means. Maybe you can figure it out. Will Betsy DeVos get caught in selling they took from the Mexican parents from the Mexican border? Betsy DeVos took the Mexican chicken to New York. She sold them. What is that?
I have no idea, but there must be something that could happen. But again, another one that I have no time for, no birth time for.
Ability. Yeah. How about DeJoy? Have you gotten any hits on him?
DeJoy, remember that I had said to you way back when? Well, DeJoy, what happens is the Saturn cycle in 2023 is unfavorable. And so I remember that I had said, I don't know, a long time ago, it might be until the spring of next year when the thing finally catches him, right?
Right.
But I mean, we're kind of in the range. I think
also the president wrote something that cuts him where he can't change things. He did an executive order that keeps DeJoy from being able to do what he was planning on doing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that keep in mind that just common sense, a lot of that chicanery was really being promoted and, you know, by Trump. When with any normal person, particularly a Democratic president, it's a much bigger lift, you know, to start stealing mailboxes and putting them in trucks. I mean, that's not going to work, you know. So you have to really toe the line a lot more, and therefore, I think he's mostly defanged. But I think he my sense is that at most he will be there another, you know, year or maybe 9 months. But at some point,
I felt like the end of the year, but okay.
The end of the year. Well, yeah, I could go with that. That's close enough. Because the thing is, by the end of the year, what you notice with astrology cycles is if a big cycle is due to happen in the spring, lots of times the events start happening a little ahead, and then it kind of works into the cycle. It's not always
right. And the good news, they did something to him where he can't make motion anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not hearing about him, because he can't do anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Biden signed some executive order that kind of keeps him in check.
Yeah, you know, and by the way, that's another thing. Even at the height of that crazy period in 2020, with all the thing about voting and mail voting, you know, in the end, they counted all the ballots.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that Krebs guy, Republican, said, no, it was the most secure election in history. We counted everything. You know, these are good messages about our republic.
Yes.
It means
And
there's a strength there, right?
And Trump fired him immediately.
Yeah, but I mean, in the end, you know, I mean,
And
can you
well,
imagine?
listen, like I told, who was I talking to? Melissa at Free Range. Thanks to Reality Winner. She's the one that let it leak from records that Trump was in Putin's hands for the election and that it was compromised due to foreign influence. And they threw her in jail, Reality Winner. But in the meantime, all the big people within the voting energy thing here said, oh, we better double check our stuff, make sure it can't be hacked by foreign entities. That's why we had such a good turnout for 2020.
Yeah, well, and I mean, with a person like Trump, when you put people like that on a ticket, you attract, you know, there's nothing more motivating to people than when they're scared. You know,
Yeah.
it works better than having even a person like Obama who excites you, and that's good. But Biden that way was helped by the fact that people were scared of Trump, right? That's the
And
logic.
the other thing is, they were talking, somebody on one of these shows was talking, and they said that apparently they told Trump, you can't be shutting off mail-in ballots because those are some of your people too. What are you doing? And he wanted to stop. No, don't count any more votes. It's over with. Remember, he wanted them to shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ham-handed too. I mean, that it's so obvious, right? That, I mean, Barr was saying to him, because I mentioned in one of my videos that Trump was saying, oh, in Detroit, they brought in all the ballots. And Barr said, well, that's what it is. They have them in boxes because they're mail ballots and they come in after and then they get counted. That's how it works. It's not complicated. He told them, you even did better in Detroit than last time.
Yeah.
Right? But Trump's idea was, oh, no, there are these 200,000 new votes. They're not new votes. They're
In
the votes.
suitcases. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, the amazing thing is that this can get out there and that you can have all these followers who believe it and send you money. By the way, this is the reason. Okay, one of the things about Trump that people need to know is his chart has a huge money signature, unsurprisingly. So when he saw money to be made, that was it. He was going to go that way.
I'm going to play this up to the hilt so I get
Of course. I mean,
250 million from these
this
suckers.
guy never passes up a chance to make money. So he knew fraud this, you know, cheating that, people send the money.
But they
where's
weren't
the
doing
money now?
anything. They were just saying it. They were just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but apparently that's another problem. That could end up being wire fraud.
That's what I
Because-
heard. I heard he
okay.
can get in trouble for that.
Think about the fact that Steve Bannon was charged with the very crime. He did the same thing. He set up that thing for the wall and all that. And then they charged him and then Trump pardoned him. But Trump's scam, grift, wire fraud is even bigger. So
Yeah.
there's evidence because you can see that he made that pack and all that. So in other words, he's got a lot of problems. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did we talk about Navalny already?
Yeah, I mentioned that from what I know, it does not surprise me in the least that there's a planetary shift that it's just increased the pressure, you know, and the problem is you're in a Russian prison. I mean, you know, this is like when
he said they put him in a prison inside a prison. So they want to make it real hard for his family or his lawyers. He can't give out messages anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So my sense of this is that it's kind of like with the Ukraine war. People wanted it to end immediately. I was getting these messages from people who said, "Oh, this psychic said that the world will stop it in April." And I said, "It's not going to happen like that. It's going to take longer. You're looking at least until next year, you know, before things begin to settle." Because you can see it in Zelensky, by the way. Zelensky is in danger, but he's managed to survive so far. But his chart is really turbulent the rest of the year. It's just in a total flux. And that's what he's in, you know?
Right. Have you taken a look-see at Putin recently?
Putin's chart, you know, the best way to summarize it is it's just reeking with health aspects. It's got health. And well, okay, health and death, because it's this 150 aspect that does both. Part of it is the death he's inflicting on the Ukrainians, because that's how things show up, right? You get a death thing, maybe you're killing people. But it's his own situation too. It's really dicey, you know. So these reports that I hear, they don't look made up to me. I think that makes sense based on his.
Well, they said he was in the United States at some cancer specialist, and that he was very lethally sick.
Well, if you pull that off, that's pretty
In
amazing.
April. in
If
April.
he actually got in and out of the States without anyone
I
knowing,
know. That could have been a farce, yeah.
that's phenomenal.
But I've always seen Navalny standing outside in the sun waving at everybody. But is it he gets out of his body and stands in the sun? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or I mean, the thing is, depending on the timing, because I could see a shift, but not right away. And I would be incredibly amazed if we went from Putin to someone as different as Navalny, because that would suggest a total upheaval in the system. Because normally,
Right.
when you
No,
think-
someone else will go in there, a Putin lookalike or whatever. But then after that, they're going to take over. The people will take over.
yeah, so it's just that it's going to take a
But
while. We have to be
I
patient.
also have felt that all of a sudden, out of the blue, Russia starts leaving the Ukraine. I saw them leaving with no announcement or anything, because we're not going to know he's dead for a while. Putin's dead. But I saw I saw them leaving all of a sudden out of the blue, and I saw the Ukrainians coming in and reclaiming a lot of the land and rebuilding. So it's almost as if they're just having to go.
Well, from your lips to the universe's
Yeah, that's
ears,
what I saw.
that would be
Like they're even talking out loud. What happened? They're leaving. What is going on? They're leaving.
yeah.
So it's not even a victory or Putin comes down.
I mean, look,
an
like
announcement.
these conflicts, when you're looking at astrology, you look through the lens of the leader for sure, and his chart. And by the way, there are people who send me, they've constantly commenting on my channel saying you have the wrong chart because of some woman, Vera something or other. He was really born in 1950. It turns out that, and I said this, those two charts, they're like 6 or half a dozen. It doesn't matter because they don't change. They keep certain things very tight in the same place. And so basically he made a really bad move. He moved into this thing, like his peak was back in 2016, 2017, 2018, when he was kind of king of the world. The Jupiter was helping him and so forth. It's not doing that anymore. And the problem is that it extends well into the future, well, like years, right? Of the same type of energy. And those tend to be the worst for health, because if you see planetary aspects that are continuing year after year, and you're dealing with a cancer diagnosis, that is not good. It's not good, right? It means, and then through the lens of the country, how is it going to work? If you look at it through it's not good, because he's attempting to, restore the empire and, and all that stuff. And I just don't see it.
No, it's not going to happen. And how about our Biden? Will he become more popular? You've already discussed this, but discuss it again.
Biden, it's actually, to me, surprising he's not already more popular. But I think a lot of his low numbers come from disaffected Democrats. But I always remind people that Trump used to have he'd be in the 30s, but his ceiling was 46, and he always would get that 46. And Biden's numbers are really above 50. When it comes time to vote, people are not going to vote for the other side. That's not going to happen. And his aspects are quite good in the summer and very good around election time.
Okay.
If I saw, November looked really horrible, then I think, well, that can't be
Maybe
good.
it's not going to work.
But it's not. So I admit that I'm pinning my astrology hopes on that, but it's really good. I mean, when you get a Jupiter station where it is in November, it's a choice aspect, a little bit like Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney has Jupiter in her chart very strong at the moment. So it's highlighting her, and she's looking good to Democrats and Republicans, right? Well,
That's
maybe not to all Republicans, but to the Republicans with a brain, the ones that
That's awesome.
have abdicated, then not them. Yeah.
So what other things have you been doing? Who else have you been looking at lately?
In the
Astrology.
well, I just did one yesterday on
Barr.
Barr that got it. Yeah, because Barr I had said about a year ago that when we got into 22, he was going to be in a high pressure zone. This is before, because Barr, this is before he actually talked. Like, I think Barr, where he does show his corruption, is that had there been no committee, he probably wouldn't have said anything. Like a lot of these guys, they basically decided, the laws there's a subpoena process, and it is pretty dangerous. If you look back at previous cycles, you can get put in the slammer for doing these kinds of things. So I did it on Barr and how he's in the midst of this pressure, and he reacted the way he reacted. But people that are saying, he'll eventually be in jail too. I think you better
No, he's not going to be.
tone down your hopes, because I don't see that.
But I saw when I would read, first of all, like I told you, when I first read on him, I said he's going to do the right thing. And boy, he sure didn't. He changed the Mueller thing and everything. But at the end of the day, he actually, even if he was forced to, he did the right thing. There was no cheating. It's a bunch of bull, you know what? And so, but his cards have always been, even that book he didn't make no money off that book. His cards are really bad. So I think physically it's going to take a toll on him.
It might. Yeah, it's entirely likely. He is a Gemini, so the Saturn cycle that starts in the spring of 23 is unfavorable, but I don't think it's unfavorable, jail unfavorable. It could be health unfavorable. It's challenging, right? Yeah. So one thing that I'll bring up, though, that I am about to do, and I can give you a little preview, is there's this astrologer who's my namesake that I find fascinating, because he did all this work in an area that I have not done work in. He shifted from personal astrology, which is my specialty. He got into world astrology. He was studying all these cycles, and he came up with this all these neat systems for graphing it. And by the way, this guy, he died at 99, and he died hours after his wife died, which is, really remarkable. It's like he waited for her to pass away and then he died, and he was 99. And he died in 2019, but in 2011, he predicted the 2020 pandemic. He said there's going to be a pandemic in 2020 because he had studied the cycles of pandemics, right? And one of the things he did that is really, really clever is he mapped an entire century of these cycles, and you can see the high points and the low points, except for these two that he didn't catch, which I'm going to throw my 2 cents in as to why what he says there, looks a little weird, because you think, well, wait a second, they're all making sense except those. There's a reason. So I'll be mentioning that.
Wow.
But
and we do have another one coming up years from now, right?
Well, here's what's cool. The cycle, we're in a cycle, the way he drew it, and he drew this in 2011 or 12, the way he drew it, 2021 is a peak of bad energy, right? So like 20 to 22 is bad, but we're now going into 2031. It gets better and better and better and better. So that's a good thing, to give us a little bit of hope.
That's good.
That everything is not going into the toilet. It's just that, there are some pretty dark forces.
Did he see the United States going through changes, or did he just see viruses?
No, he just pointed to a worldwide pandemic, right?
Okay.
He did work on the United States. I got to look at that a little more closely. He assigned certain planets more to the US, some more to Russia, some more to China, and he said a few things about that. But you can see in the US chart that the US is in the replica of the Civil War. We're in this until at least post the next election. And so, yes, it's going to make everyone very nervous, because there are going to be forces in play that are not going to be reasonable, right? And you're seeing them. I mean, the Proud Boys.
I see terrorist action.
Exactly. So we have to, the thing that I encourage people to do is realize that all of us are like minds and coalesce into a big mind. Stay positive, stay focused, stay determined to vote, and even hold the thought in your mind. Yes, we're going to get through this. Don't play with ideas that it's all falling apart.
You got to have faith.
Yeah, you got to have faith, because the collective having faith in the republic helps the republic to stay alive. It's literal. That's why That's why people do prayer meetings and that. That's what you're doing. You're sending out energy. So remind yourself, yeah, okay, I just saw this crazy thing on TV. I can't believe it, whatever, but hold the line. We're going to get through it. It's really important.
And also don't listen to those reports, because I think a lot of those so-and-so's points are way ahead. I just think they're bull. I don't think you can trust them. I do have a little good news. Fetterman apparently is 9 points above Oz, according to the latest poll.
Well, there you go to what we said earlier, that the Orange Menace, what he does, because he's all he does is revenge, he puts people in there that are not up to the task, because then the public will look and go, well, wait a second, Dr. Oz, but there's this other guy is better. So you don't need to lose, you don't need to get all the votes. You just need a piece. And this is the thing about this situation with the hearings. you're not going to convince all the Republicans. But if you get a chunk, that's how you lose races, because right now the margins are tight, right? So all you need is a little bit of a defection and things change. And it's never good to see your own people, Barr, the lawyers, calling him crazy and saying, this guy is out of his mind and so forth. Some people will realize that it's time to shift. I heard someone analyze saying that it is known through polling and statistics that there's a large group of Republicans that are law and order people, and they do become aware of these things, and they don't like when they see, it's just total garbage. What this guy was doing was
well,
criminal.
even the guy that told, I want to hear 2 words out of your mouth, peaceful transition. I'm sure he has regrets working for Trump at that thing. I'm sure now he's saying this guy's a putz.
Yeah, I would say so, 100%. I mean, that guy's funny. Joe Scarborough, the morning Joe, he was saying that guy should, when they make the movie, he said that guy should play himself.
But listen, I have some good news, everybody. I just want you to know the Dow Jones is up almost 300 points. And the NASDAQ is up 239 points. And they have announced that they're doing the 0.75% Fed rate change. So it's 0.75 isn't going to kill anybody, but it feels, I see a recovery. I don't know if you can, there's certain astrologers that do that. They deal with only money.
Well, my feeling is that something has to shift to stabilize or improve over the next number of months, because Biden's astrology just makes no sense to me if everything is crumbling. Because even though, by the way, to those who don't understand, and I'm sure most people do, but inflation is not Biden's fault. Inflation is right now a planetary problem. Every country is experiencing inflation because we came out of a pandemic, and demand drives things up. And then you get a few cheaters who capitalize, and charge more and whatnot.
And of course, what that gal today on MSNBC said, these Exxon and all that stuff, they made tons of money. But they're about their stockholders. The government isn't in charge of them. They're about their stockholders. Right,
exactly. So, but just based on my feeling is that it would potentially start to stabilize, even though I admit at the moment it looks pretty grim because the prices are high, although everybody's employed too. I mean, it's kind of a topsy-turvy period where, it doesn't compare to, think about Jimmy Carter. They raised interest rates to 20%. And I mean, right now we're like at what, 3%, 2%?
Oh, no, it's up to almost 5%, but still.
Well, no,
my first house was 7%. I remember paying 11% at one time.
You mean 5 is like the mortgage rate, but I mean the prime.
Oh, the mortgage.
Well, whatever. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah, it's far lower than that, because that cut the inflation back in 1980, but it cost Carter his presidency, right?
Yeah. So it's going to be okay. We could be wrong. Well, not you. You go by the chart, but I could be shutting my business because I'll say, okay, you guys, I got it wrong. I remember when they didn't call Biden that night of the election, my heart was in my throat. I was like telling my guides, why would you tell me to tell everybody he won? Why would you do that? And then he won. So it's like my guides are like, there you go. So you're going to diss us again.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, okay, that's a curious one, because that to me was really graphic. But the astrology is not always that graphic. The astrology at times is a little more dicey. I remember that I was really confident because Trump's chart was such a mess. I kept thinking this guy is just going to keep basically making things worse for himself. Yeah. Because really, when you think about it, Trump, I mean, what a moron. If he just loses and walks away, maybe he gets to the next year and maybe he'd be a really good candidate. But no, he had to go do an insurrection, right? To complicate things horribly for himself. That's the way he reacts. He gets planetary pressure, he amps it up and makes things worse. Because if he hadn't done that, he'd be now probably, people might say, well, maybe we should get Trump back, instead of Biden, because for whatever.
Well, and also it was his own people, all those people. Sean, what's his name? Sean, whatever, from Fox News.
Oh, Sean Hannity.
They're saying, you're going to destroy everything we work for.
Yeah.
Please call them off. They all begged him. Yeah. So basically all those, Sean Hannity, Basically, all those people you can't say were part of the insurrection because they were begging Trump to stop this.
Well, yeah, although what is horrible is that because they don't want that known, they don't want those texts aired, they go out of their way not to air it. I mean, it's
I
just it's so pathetic, that they
Well,
were
I
involved.
wish I could be taking a walk under those beautiful trees right now. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could too,
It's
but
beautiful. So, my friend, how do people get a hold of you?
well, astrology alert, and then you can see in one of the tabs you can see how to contact me if they want to. Andricard.com too. If you go there, then you see how to contact me. Yeah.
So, what's the weather like where you're at?
It's still in Seattle. There's a saying that they call June. They call it January, because we don't really get most years. The weather doesn't get decent until July. So we get July to September are usually good summer years, but the other 9 months, it's lots of rain. And even in June, we've had the heat turn on multiple times because it'll be in the 40s at night. So
Wow.
it's pretty far north. That's the reason why I think,
Well, it's 90 degrees out here where I am. But
yeah.
there is a little prediction. I was telling people I'm seeing earthquakes in two arenas, one in Central California and one off the coast of Seattle and Oregon. And first thing this morning, I got news of a 5.6 earthquake off the coast of Oregon.
Wow.
There's more to come.
Don't scare
There's
me
more
because
good-sized shakers in the ocean. I saw it in the ocean, and then I
Well,
see in middle of.
I was in a quake here in 2001, and I had been in minor quakes before, but that was a real earthquake.
Which one was that one? How big was it?
It was pretty. It was the highest. Like, what is it? 8 point. What's the?
Oh, you were in
It
the
was really,
8-pointer?
yeah, but the reason it didn't destroy everything is it was 10 miles deep. So the earth shook for about really hard, because I remember I felt like I was on a boat for about 40 seconds. It was pretty intense. But then, because it was deep, it wasn't too bad, just a little bit of damage. The problem is we're like right on a fault here.
I know.
Seattle is in this thing that if it ever really cracks, we got a pretty big problem.
There's a big one out on your ocean too. There's a big one that in the
It extends.
1700s caused a tsunami that wiped out all kinds of things. But I will tell you that I was in the 7.1 Lopriana earthquake with the World Series, where I worked at the hospital where the overpass collapsed, and for thank God I couldn't walk. It was so bad. You can't walk.
No.
You think people running during an earthquake? You can't run during an earthquake like that. I just stood there holding on. But anyway, it was only 7 point something. But what I was going to say is that these quakes, the big ones, like the one in Alaska, they said that baby lasted there was one in Brazil, right? And one in Alaska. What was the one in Alaska that wiped out that island in Hawaii with a tsunami?
I can't remember.
But it lasted 5 minutes. Can you imagine being in a shake for 5 minutes?
It would be a terror. Because even the 40 seconds, I remember what you're saying, how you feel like, I remember the adrenaline in me and kind of feeling, I don't know where this is going. Maybe I'm gonna. What do I do?
Am I gonna die? Yeah.
I was in a parking lot and the cars were going like this. I thought, holy smoke!
But were you on an upper level or were you on the ground?
I was on the ground.
Good.
Yeah, I wasn't an upper level. We went outside, but the whole earth felt like it was like rocking like a boat, and you could see the cars moving. And two people in front of me were having panic attacks because this one woman had been in Romania and had a memory of an earthquake, so she was, having a panic attack. And this other man, same thing, his breathing was really.
So you go up and slap him across the face and say, "Snap out of it."
I was focusing on what I was going to do next, because I literally thought, okay, you might now be at the other end of the parking lot in seconds. It might throw you there, and I was kind of pondering non-verbally what I might do.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
All right, Andre, this is wonderful. So I'll be on your show next.
All right, I look forward to it.
Okay, and let's see, we got more news coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I got to make a chart for that too, because that's another really interesting chart, the shift and what that's going to highlight the next hearings. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you, my friend. You take care. Cheers.